Well, when Ruth, their first day in Bethlehem, she has to go out and get groceries. That's just how that works when you move to a new town. Even before you start unpacking, you got to go shopping. Of course, in her case, it wasn't shopping so much as gleaning. And off she goes to glean. This was a hard job. You weren't paid for it. All you were doing was picking up the scraps that the landowner left in the fields. You were allowed to pick up the scraps if you were a foreigner. She was fatherless. She was. No father lived in that country. And if you were a widow. So she was thrice qualified to do this. So she's picking up diligently, picking up for hours. When Boaz shows up, can I just tell you what we know about Boaz? The first word out of his mouth is the Lord. First words he speaks, the Lord be with you. That's the first words he says to the people in his fields. Wouldn't you love your boss to show up some morning and say that? It's even better than a box of donuts. You know, the Lord be with you. And they immediately shout back all across the field, the Lord bless you. Man, what a workplace. It's such an example of how to have a great place to work. And then, of course, the next says, whose young woman is that? Yeah, he noticed her. Now, she was a gleaner, bottom rung of the socioeconomic level, bottom rung, and a Moabitess besides, which meant, though she would speak the same language, she'd have an accent. It's like in this country, if you're from Massachusetts and Louisiana, you're both speaking English, but it wouldn't sound the same. Yeah. She wouldn't sound the same when she got to Judah. She'd also look slightly different, a little bit different coloring in the skin, probably freckles. And so he would have noticed that she was a foreigner, and he might have ignored her for that, but he didn't. He made a beeline for her, and he says, daughter, oh man, to a Moabitess, an Israelite said, daughter. But see, he knew the family connections through Elimelech. He knew this was a young woman who needed to be taken care of. Daughter, listen to me. So he steps into a place of authority. And he tells her that she can glean in the land. And he says, and if you are thirsty, you may drink from the jars that the men have filled. Well, I'm going to tell you, a gasp went out across the field. What? Not the good water? That's not water, you know, this is the good water that the guys poured for the household. And he's offering it to a gleaner? But see, when you offer people water in the Bible, and you check all through, the of water is a gift of hospitality. It's an extension of relationship. It says, I want to know you better. She's so blown away by this. She falls down with her face to the ground. That's a very common phrase in the Bible. Bathsheba and Abigail both do that before David. It's not worship. It's respect, and it's how we respond to grace. You just fall on your face. And she says, why have you noticed me, a foreigner? She's completely blown away that this man, this good, godly man, a man of standing, he's called. Ooh, a man of standing. It meant he was a war hero. It meant he was wealthy and influential. I like him already. Why we don't have more boys named Boaz in the church nurseries, I don't know, because he is such a hero. But think about Ruth now. Okay, she's on her face, on the ground. This is the dirt she's been working in all day. She's sweaty. She's bottom rung. Why have you even noticed me? 2 months from now, that's about how long it would take her to glean in the barley and then the wheat. 2 months from now, she's going to own that land as his wife. She can't imagine that as she lays there face in the dirt. But Boaz is already thinking about ways to bless her. As soon as she goes back to work, he's thinking about ways to bless her. He's telling the men, leave more than just the gleanings. You leave some extras. Pull out the good stuff. If we can understand, that's what God does for us.
Yes, it is.
We've got our faces in the dirt and our hands in the dirt, and all we can see is dirt. We think it's over. There's no hope for me. And he is looking over us saying, I have such a plan for you. I have such a plan for a future and a hope. Oh,